Hello, and welcome to the next episode of TILLY, the interactive lupus link for you. This is an episodic series brought to you every week by the Lupus Foundation of New England. I'm your host, Marisa Zeppieri-Caruana. Some of you may already know me as Lupus Chick. And on tonight's episode, I'm really excited to bring to you a special guest. Some of you might know him already. We're actually talking about caregiving and what that entails and all of the areas of life that it sort of seeps into when you're a caregiver. So we are talking to my husband, Mickey Caruana. So Mickey, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
This should be an interesting episode, filming my spouse about obviously a topic that we deal with every day and can sometimes be an amazing thing and sometimes be a very stressful thing. So we look forward to hearing from you. So if you want, you can tell us a little bit about yourself. That's how we start off every episode. And maybe I'll just kick it off with, especially for other men, since most lupus patients are women, even though it does affect men, but 90% are women. So for men out there that are caregivers, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your story with them and also some tips and advice that you have.
Hello, thanks for having me. So my name is Mickey Caruana, and it is been quite a journey with Lupus Chick. The best part has been watching her grow and become Lupus Chick, because as you all know, lupus brings a lot of different curveballs and surprises. We've known each other now about 15 years, 16 years total, between the time we were friends for a while before we dated. And yeah, so I am often known as Love Bug and referred to as such, maybe on different comments or whatever. And I've been a part of the growth and development of Lupus Chick and watching everything. So it's been exciting. It's exciting to be here today, talking and sharing and hopefully encouraging some, who just go through the challenges of it. Is there anything else you wanted from me?
Well, I wanted you to share a little bit about being a caregiver. Like, obviously, it could be very stressful sometimes. It is, it's a pretty, depending on how sick I am, it can be a pretty demanding job, and lupus does infiltrate every area of life. So we're just here to kind of get your thoughts so that you can give people encouragement that, like, we get a lot of messages from people that say, my spouse doesn't understand. They think I'm really being lazy, or I just don't want to work. They don't understand how one day I feel so good and the next day I am completely wiped out and I can't get out of bed. So if their spouse is listening, what would you say for questions like that? Like if someone is experiencing that and they're having their spouse watch this, what advice would you offer to that spouse?
Well, as you know, I stressed with you when we were first dating that if you journaled and you knew and learned what your body could and couldn't do, and your kind of recovery rate and your ups and your downs, and I know that you benefited a lot from that, because I would see that there would be things that, with you being in the fog of lupus, you didn't even always remember some of the cycles, and oftentimes you forgot, say, the exhilaration of the moment and the best of times when you were in the midst of the worst of times, and I would have to encourage you or remind you, but I know when you wrote some of that stuff down, how you would find encouragement and even inspiration looking back, reading it, remembering that, oh yeah, I remember that day I felt like I was in the pit of hell, but then I had a great day or two after that. And you remembered that. and that helped me because it wasn't always like me reminding you directly. Uh, you, you know, had your own words that had said it. And I would say a lot of it is, and then I have to remind myself on your really bad days that, um, that wasn't your plan. We had plans. I know you were excited, whether it was planning a vacation, and the one vacation that we almost didn't take to Maine, that is so many great memories, for both of us, but you loved it and enjoyed the time up there. But lupus gave you a horrible couple of days and you just wanted to cancel the whole thing. So it wouldn't be the first time anyone's ever heard it. Communication is certainly key. Communicating and encouraging it. Really, caregiving, especially living, with somebody, not just like providing care and then, having your own life, but living with somebody. There's definitely an element of coaching involved, because I have to remind you sometimes of what, it can be like, and what the last championship you won was like, even though it feels like you're getting your butt kicked in this series. So I would say there's a lot of that between, especially a caregiver, spouse, of, encouraging the other person, reminding yourself of their great strengths, of their past victories and accomplishments, so that you don't get caught up and mired in what it feels like now, like to think that they're lazy. Like, I can remind myself of enough of what you do regularly to know that laziness isn't a factor. When you say I'm going back to bed, and then you say I'm going back to bed, and then you say I'm going back to bed, and it seems like 4, 5, 6 days in a row, I know from life that that's not where you want to be. I know that you would rather be on a road trip. You would rather be, shopping, maybe. You would rather be, so many other places. Bed is not the place you want to be. And and everybody's different, but I think that with proper communication, people could be and should be reminded that if the person had a choice, I don't really think, take away the fever, take away the pain, take away the brain fog, I think the last place they'd want to be is bed. They'd want to be out in the world and enjoying life. And so I have to remind myself of that. And occasionally, I have to remind you of that, because in the midst of it, you're thinking, if bed is all I'm going to see for who knows, how many more days, weeks, or months, is this really where I want to be? So it's communication, and it's both people remembering it's still okay to have dreams and hopes and make plans, and just know that occasionally they all have to be put on hold, and then you get through it, and then you jump right back into the schedule. And I guess it all goes with being flexible,
Definitely, flexibility is helpful. But I like what you said. Communication is obviously a huge part of it. Coaching is also a big part of it. I think I'm on both sides. But I think for people that, maybe have family members, or whoever their caregiver is, doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse. I think for them to remember, like, if they're not getting that support, sometimes it's because someone truly just doesn't understand. They don't understand how lupus works. And that's where I think it's great if that person's open to maybe watching, some YouTube videos like the TILLY series, or, different things that explain, like, this is how it is for lupus patients. Like, it's not that someone is, trying to not get a job or doesn't want to work. Like, there are many things involved. But I think, like, education is key. And then obviously sometimes you do run into family members or friends or whoever that they just can't understand it, and they don't really get, or maybe they don't want to get, like, why you just aren't getting better, and why tomorrow you can't just get up and do all the things you're supposed to do. Um, so obviously caregiving can be really stressful. We've had some very difficult seasons of life, especially when we were first married. You know, I had an awful flare and I was in and out of the hospital for like a year. I wound up in a wheelchair. We had a nurse coming to our house. Like your first year of marriage, not what you ever expect to be. And that's already stressful enough. So, you know, what would you say as far as the stress angle of it all? And what are some good ways to combat that and, you know, give yourself as a caregiver some time for yourself or some self-care?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, look, and we've seen this. We've had seasons where we spent a lot of time together, and some of those seasons, you know, were great, the amount of time, because maybe we weren't as intentional as we should have been, but because we had so much time, we made up enough of, you know, quality time. But even if it's not a lot of time, you still have to be intentional. And there has to be, you know, and so you know how I feel about like sitting down together, or, you know, having a meal at the table, you know, in our case, whoever's living in the house, you know, having face-to-face time. So like that's important, because if everything becomes about lupus, and everything becomes about being sick, and everything becomes about, you know, whatever the illness is, I mean, you lose focus of so many other things. But me personally, yeah, you may not be able to go out paddleboarding, but every once in a while, I mean, you know, I have to, you know, so each person has to have something that, you know, they find a little bit in. But, you know, Marissa and I, some of you might not know, we used to spend a lot of time playing Halo online. That was definitely one of our retreats, because we could be together in the house on the couch, because she couldn't go out, whether it was because of the heat or because she was exhausted. But we could kick ass all over the world through Halo and take on people. And we met a lot of good friends, and we had a lot of good time together, you know, doing something that for our thumbs was very active, right? And our characters were constantly running and shooting and jumping, even though we might have been on the couch. So,
I think
you
that's
know,
something that's really important, like you just said. So you have to spend some time together, especially if it's a spouse caregiver relationship, because there were like stretches of weeks or months where I couldn't do anything. So whether we were playing a video game, sometimes we would play actual card games like Old Maid, you know, or we would just have friends over. Maybe we'd watch like a series or something, or get like, you know, taken dinner or whatnot. Um, at least we were able to still enjoy some of the time. And, you know, we would obviously have to plan it around when I was awake and how bad the flare was and things like that. But something you touched on that I think is really important is whoever the caregiver is, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a mom, like there has to be that sort of cutoff point where they can go and do something that they enjoy and still have a piece of themselves that has nothing to do with lupus or chronic illness or taking care of someone. Mickey loves the water. He loves to go on like trips with guy friends and go to the rapids. You know, and those are things that I had zero interest in doing just because I didn't feel well. And two, I couldn't physically do it even if I wanted to. But I really wanted him to enjoy it and be happy and just kind of get that break. So I was very happy to see him go and do those things and actually have fun. So I think it really falls on like both people. You know, you have to be okay with that separation for a little while, because I think if you don't have it, you can get really overwhelmed, and that's when things I feel like start to go downhill, right? You get irritable, you get really frustrated, everything becomes about the illness, like you said, and it can be like overload for someone.
But yes, you gotta find something. I mean, it's certainly important to find something that you can do together. And like, we love road trips. So when Marissa is feeling well, and the nice thing about a road trip is we go at our own pace. So if Marissa's not feeling well, that's a slower day. Or maybe, I bring the bikes and uh, she stays and takes a nap, and I take off and go explore a little bit. And then I bring her back to whatever waterfalls or rivers I discovered while she was asleep. And I just, that's what we learned, flexibility. And we also learned that not everybody that's in your life now can handle it. But the biggest thing we learned was honesty, because we spent some time hiding, not really on purpose, but just not wanting to always be like, oh, sorry, we can't do that today. It's a bad lupus day. And you just don't want to keep telling people that. And sometimes it's the people really close to you, but you just don't want to keep saying that. And what it becomes is a lie, because you're hiding the truth. And some of them never come along and fully understand what you're going through. And it's not their fault. When you're having your worst days, you'll think it's their fault, because how come they don't know? But when we looked back, we realized that there were a group of people we had not fully given the details and the information to just how bad it could be or how bad it was sometimes. And that's just because you don't want to always be, saying it's this, I'm sick, it's, so I mean, again, it was like good intentions, but a horrible effect. And that's, you want to avoid that. You just want to be honest, and some people can't handle it. Some people
I
will
think,
disappear out of your life.
that's the problem. Like, I think there's a really fine line in what you're saying there. I think, for some of us, we don't want to constantly be saying, like, I can't do that. Sorry, I'm sick. No, I can't make it. Oh, I have to cancel. You can only do that so many times before some people get very offended. They take it very personally, especially if they have not themselves dealt with a chronic illness, or they don't live with someone that has a chronic illness. So for me, many, many years ago, going back, 15 years when we met, it was not telling people. It's just like, oh, well, we can't make it, or we're busy or whatnot, just because I didn't want them to keep hearing, I'm sick, or I'm in the hospital, or I'm in a flare. And then on the flip side, when you tell people that and you are open and honest, sometimes then it kind of backfires on you, and it's like, well, she's always sick. Every time we talk to her, she's sick. So it's like, sometimes as someone that lives a chronic illness, you feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, honestly, at the end of the day. So I think, it's a line that everyone sort of has to set for themselves. But I do agree with you, like, to the people that we really tried to keep it away from, because we didn't want them to think that we just didn't want to hang out with them, but that's actually how it was perceived at the end of the day. And these were family members.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I just had to say, like, look, we can come over and eat dinner with you, but either if we come early, Marissa's probably going to have to go to the guest room and take a nap, or she's going to disappear right after we eat and go take a nap, because we're literally, like, she's going to drag herself over because we want to come. But if we didn't, at some point there would be a nap in the next couple hours. So the nap has to happen either way. And if you're okay with that and you understand, then, we can join you. And so there's certain people that, I hope those people that are in your life, that you want in your life, that, kind of family that are, supposed to be in your life, they understand, and they cooperate with that. And the best part is, some of them are now great resources, at least, and prayer partners that we can say, hey, this is, really bad week, or stuff going on, or some tests coming up, a lot of doctor's appointments, can you guys keep this in prayer? Because, you have people you can go to more rely on, instead of, I don't know, kind of hide it from them. And it just, it backfires when you think you're making it easier and you're not. I prefer brutal honesty over, veiled stuff. So.
Well, and the other thing is I want people to know that maybe you don't have, family around you that you can share all of that with and they're accepting, and that's why it's so important that you reach out to places like the Lupus Foundation New England or Lupus Chick, and there's so many incredible resources online, because not everyone around you is going to understand what this is like every day. Even your caregiver may not, there is really no way for them to fully understand all of it if they aren't the one that is actually going through it personally. So that's why I love that people can reach out to people online. And I know a lot of people have connected and become friends with people like halfway around the world, but it's just like their person that gets them. That if we, share like our innermost thoughts and we're having a really bad day, we know that it's gonna be between us. There's gonna be no judgment. We're not putting it on our caregiver or our parents or our spouse all the time. So I'm very grateful to have a couple people like that in my life that I can reach out to. And also, I think it keeps it off of you sometimes. Also, it's nice to have another woman to talk to at times. Like there's, like different people for different things. So I just want to encourage anyone that's here that feels like, they don't really have anyone close to them. I just want them to know that you're not alone. Like there are many resources. You could always reach out to me. You can always reach out to the Lupus Foundation of New England. We're here and we get it. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, well, and that's, in case somebody listening to this that has never heard it, Lupus Chick was born out of Marisa's first real urge to do something, which was the Lupus Survival Guide. And it's literally because we were in survival mode. I mean, it was everything in her life, but it was our life at that time too. So it was pure survival. It was, and I will say this, in the relationship, even while we were dating, I would go with her to some of the lupus support groups that were happening at one of the local hospitals in one of their community rooms. And, I got to see other people, and it helped both of us because, in any group, and here at Lupus Chicken everywhere, I mean, everybody's in a different season, a different stage, dealing with, life and then their illness. And we have no idea, what their life was like, without their illness, let alone, now. So you learn. It's like people who, study any profession, any sport, whatever, you watch other people do it, and some you learn good habits from, and some you learn bad, and then eventually, you don't watch the bad habits anymore, you focus on the good. And so in the support group, we did that. And I think in this community, so when she started Lupus Survival Guide, it was literally survival mode. And then as we kind of transitioned out of that, but we weren't really aware of it yet, we were actually kind of working in sync and getting more to thriving than surviving. And, God gave her a dream of Lupus Chick, and it seemed like such a radical rebranding. At the moment, it was like, oh, but you've just been building this. So, but it was amazing because we were in a different stage of life. We had made a big move together. We had planned. We had done a bunch of stuff together, and we had a season of getting out of the house without a wheelchair. We had a season of not having to carry her up the stairs every day. There was like, we were in something different, and she wanted to share that sometimes a survival phase is temporary. There's no guarantee for anybody how long it is, but the point is learning to make whatever adjustments and live through it. So that was kind of part of the birth of Lupus Chick, which was so exciting to see happen. It was like a butterfly coming out, right, of the chrysalis. It was a new birth there.
Definitely. I want to, encourage people that are either just newly engaged, newly married, maybe just dating. You do fall into a rhythm eventually. It can be a little tough at first. Obviously, you're getting on top of like getting to know one another, or living together as a married couple. There already are challenges there anyway without like throwing a chronic illness in. But I will say, like, over time, you get a rhythm. You sort of know, like, you pick up the cues and you sort of figure it out, and you have like this plan that you seem to follow, right? So that things go a little bit smoother, and you learn over time. Like, we, had a lot of bumps in the beginning, but I just want to encourage people to just keep going, communicating, and, nothing's going to be perfect and nothing's going to be easy, especially when lupus is thrown in. But there are ways to thrive, and even in your relationship, it just takes work. It takes work, takes time, and it takes communication. So I wanted to just throw those in there. We have to talk about your Plaquenil story, because it's still one of my favorite stories to tell people. So, all right, for all of you that have lupus and take hydroxychloroquine, you know that it is a horrible tasting medication, okay? It's just the way it is. So when I was dating Mickey, we had his family over for like one of the first family dinners, and it was kind of awkward, and there were like some quiet moments, and one of the things that we made were mashed potatoes. So I had tucked my medication underneath the plate, and I go to grab the hydroxychloroquine, and it literally jumps like out of my finger, and I can't find it anywhere. And I don't want to make a scene like in front of his family, right? Because at the time I wasn't really sharing that I was really sick. So I'm like looking for it. I'm looking underneath the table. I can't find it anywhere. And after like 2 or 3 minutes, I just give up, and I'm figuring
All of
it
this is unbeknownst to me. I don't even know what's going on here.
Mickey has no idea because I can't say anything. I'm thinking maybe it just slid under like someone's lip of their plate or something. And then a few minutes later, Mick, what happens?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure, as is normal, she offers me her leftovers of what she's not going to eat, and she says, "Here, we'll finish these. Finish these. I'm done. I can't eat any of this." And and so I eat her leftover mashed potatoes, and well, I found it. I I'm eating it, and I just have the most horrible, disgusting thing happening in my mouth. It was just, and it was like almost like a, an instinctual, like retching kind of reaction as I'm chewing on the hydroxychloroquine without knowing it, and like, what is this? And spit out the mashed potatoes, and she's like, "Oh, that's where it went. It must have fallen into the mashed potatoes." So yeah, I can certainly say that it does not taste good. I don't think you're not required to chew it, right? You normally swallow it.
No.
Chewing it, highly do not recommend chewing Plaquenil or hydroxychloroquine. It was
One
disgusting.
one star. Do not recommend.
Yeah,
For
no,
sure.
and that's only because you can't give it 0 stars.
Well, I'm very sorry that I somehow forced you to eat hydroxychloroquine without even meaning to
Ugh,
do it. It's a horrible thing, but I just, I still laugh when I think about it so many years later at an awkward, first family meeting. So it was good times.
yeah.
So as we get ready to close here, I want to say thank you for letting us talk to you for a little bit, and we appreciate your advice or tips. Do you have anything else you just want to add in closing before we sign off?
I mean, I'll share this because I just think it was a big moment when Marissa and I were dating, and I think we were about to get engaged. Maybe we just had, and someone said to me, um, "Mickey, are you sure? You sure this is what you want to do?" Obviously, she's not healthy. She has an illness. You know, is this really what you want? And I don't say this because of me. I just say this, you know, I feel fortunate that I just had this perspective in life. I had seen enough and known that like there's no guarantee, not only for tomorrow, which the Bible talks about, but there's this idea that like everything I do is because I want to achieve happiness. You know, I need to make me happy. And then we quantifies that. So the person was, you know, concerned. I mean, they weren't trying to be mean, but they were trying because they knew me. They didn't know Marisa. And I just told them, you know, again, open your eyes, look, life gives you many examples. There's dozens, if not hundreds of stories you could find of the perfectly healthy, you know, stereotypical like cheerleading captain and the football captain. You know, everything looks great. They look healthy and, you know, they get engaged, get married. And on the way home from the reception, they get in a car accident and one of them is eating through a straw for the rest of their life. Those things happen. So to exclude the possibility of somebody who gives you happiness or you enjoy being around and who fits in your life in so many other ways for those reasons, I would just say don't be deceived or confused over like priorities like that, because you can exchange what you think is going to be, you know, for security in one way, and then it's taken from you. And I don't know. I just felt like, you know, I don't know that. So that was my answer, is I wasn't going to make a choice and say, well, she's not exactly what I would want in health. Again, somebody who marries somebody who they think is just nothing but absolutely stunning, beautiful physically, and then whether it's disease or an accident and they're disfigured, I mean, I hope you liked them for other reasons. So that's my point. And like I said, you can look around and you can find hundreds of stories like that where, or again, perfectly healthy and in their 20s, you know, they die of cancer or some other event. But hey, I picked somebody who was really healthy and I thought everything was going to be fine. So I just think that that's, and again, that someone came to me, and those of you that are in a relationship with somebody, it's possible that there's someone in your life that is feeling and thinking the same thing. Like, well, why would you do this? You know, but it's also between Marisa and myself, as with anybody, especially in a relationship, there has to be that communication. Like, I'll never know what it feels like, what she actually feels, but I'm still choosing to do my best to be alongside her and work with her through it and whatever. And so there has to be that acknowledgement on both people's parts. Although I may never know, at the same time, I'm still making these efforts to do other things that I can, hopefully, to accommodate or make it easier or encourage or coach or, you know, love her through it as best I can.
Well, you're definitely a great encourager, so I thank you for that. And I thank you for being here with us. So this was my husband, Mickey Caruana. And I just want to thank all of you for making the second season of TILLY amazing. Again, it's brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of New England. I want to thank Beverly for letting me have the opportunity to lead the series. We had 6 amazing. Awesome. Yes, Beverly is awesome. We had 6 episodes again this season. You can watch them on Lupus Chicks Facebook. You can watch them on the Facebook page for the Lupus Foundation of New England, and also our websites and our YouTube channels. So stay tuned. We're going to be coming back with season 3. Lots of amazing experts, patients, and some surprises. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful week. Take care.